Cyber attacks can be incredibly complex. They involve multiple steps, and each step can be a whole topic unto itself. They can last hours, days, weeks, even months. And yet the best attackers are able to follow all of that up with obfuscating their tale. However, there is a way to simplify these cyber attacks in your understanding and report writing. So whenever you see these complex cyber attacks happen in the wild, you can actually make better sense of them using this specific tool. And yes, you can do it for free right now using the link in the description where you can follow along. And of course, we're talking about the MITRE ATT&CK Framework. This is a beast of a resource, and if you haven't heard of this yet, then you absolutely need to have this bookmarked on your browser right now. This maps adversarial tools, techniques, and procedures, or TTPs, as well as the adversaries themselves. Even if you're not necessarily working full-time, you can just read through the MITRE ATT&CK Framework and get a heck of a lot of information on different threat groups that might look interesting to you, on the different TTPs that are used by threat groups. It's very, very educational and informative. And if you are working full-time, then it is so handy to use in report writing and even in your detections. And all of this culminates in a more educated and informed approach to cybersecurity. Heck, even if you're a red teamer, you can use this to analyze the different TTPs of a specific threat group you're trying to emulate and be better at red team. Okay, so enough on how powerful this tool is or why you should use it. Let's talk about what MITRE ATT&CK is and how you can use it, because I think it speaks for itself. And again, there's a link down in the video description that you can follow along and make sure that it is bookmarked. So we're going to start here on the Get Help page, and this is really where you can get just a really quick overview on MITRE ATT&CK. So starting with getting started, you see that there is a blog post. There's a nice little video here on YouTube, which we're not going to watch because you're watching this one, and this has all you need to know. No shade or anything. It's got a philosophy paper on what the MITRE ATT&CK Framework is. I mean, really, like, if you want to read more, everything is here. It is very, very cool. But let's look at the top. At the top, we have matrices, tactics, and you see that it breaks down by environment type, techniques, data sources, mitigations, groups, software, and then more resources. So we're going to start with matrices. This is pretty cool. So again, it has it broken down into the different environment types. So you have enterprise, you have cloud, you have the different operating systems, you have mobile. It's very cool. And each one of these, like let's say Windows, the Windows matrix, you have by every different type of element of the cyber attack, from initial access, whenever an attacker gains initial access, how they're able to do that. So like phishing, let's click on phishing to gain initial access. It'll have the sub techniques and the procedure examples, and it'll even have the different threat groups that have used this in the past, the different malware that has spread through phishing. And it does this for every single example. So let's say browser extensions for persistence. It has a description here of this, of basically how browser extensions can be weaponized for an attacker to maintain persistence. It's got some examples, and then it's got some ways that you can mitigate that too. And then also ways that you can detect browser extensions. And then it even has references that you can read up more if you would like. So that's basically a matrix if you want a table to digest. Let's look at tactics. And we're going to look for, let's say, industrial control systems, or ICS. This is basically what was in the matrices, but basically in a table form, but basically in a list. Now with techniques, similar, it's in a list broken down by phase of a cyber attack, and it's basically showing it at a very granular level. So you're gonna have to probably beef up, your reporting. You can't necessarily just say set UID and set GUID like right here for enterprise. You're gonna have to really map where that fits in. But again, you can use the matrix tab that we just looked at. It's gonna really help it make more sense that way. Next, we have data sources, and here we have all the different places that you can gain data from, as well as kind of where, like what specifically those are. Again, it's so granular. You are able to map so much, like literally everything in your, your digital environment, your network, to the MITRE ATT&CK Framework. And there are APIs that you can use in your detection software. I know Splunk has one. There's some other SIMs out there that have MITRE ATT&CK APIs that you can use, and those are very, very handy, especially for whenever you're building dashboarding and alerting. Mitigations, these are the different mitigations that you can enact for the different attacks. And again, if it's here in listicle format, it It may not necessarily make a ton of sense. It might just kind of seem like they're just throwing a bunch of different types of mitigations. And this can be a great way to learn about different types of mitigations, or for that matter, data sources, techniques, or tactics. But again, the matrix tab over here is going to really graphically show you where all of that fits in. So it'll make a little bit more sense here. You might also see in the matrix tab, I know we're kind of jumping back here, but you'll see phishing, and then there are 3 different types of phishing, or supply chain compromise, 3 different types of supply chain compromise. It really breaks it down so that way every cyber attack that you read up on, anything that you see on your own network, you can map to a very specific element of the MITRE ATT&CK Framework. It really makes your reporting so much more powerful. Now let's go to groups, because I think that this is personally for me one of the most fascinating parts. They list all the different cyber threat groups that they've seen out there. So let's say I just saw Lazarus group. Here it is, North Korea. There's a North Korean state-sponsored cyber threat group. Very interesting stuff. It has their associated groups, some of the different names that have been used to define it or that have been associated with it. It's got all the different MITRE techniques or MITRE attack techniques that they have been seen to use, as well as examples and really citations in time on when they use those techniques. And same thing, if we scroll down here, might have picked a bad example because there's a lot known about Lazarus, so there's a lot of these. If you go down to software, it's got all the different software. So they've been seen to use Apple Juice. They've been seen to use, I don't know, Apple Juice sounds fun, so let's click it. And we see that it breaks down what Apple Juice is. It breaks down that it's a type of malware, what operating systems it works on, when it was created and last modified, or this entry at least was last modified, the different techniques that Apple Juice can be used with. It's very, very cool, as well as the groups that have used that software. It is so handy. So of course, here we got software, and this is where you can really scroll through and see all the different software. This includes things like Netcat or ifconfig or even Cobalt Strike. Like, I'm trying to pronounce Cobalt Strike, but it's not working. Cobalt Strike. You can dive into every single one of these softwares that's being used by a threat group all here. And it is, again, it exists in an API. You can ingest it and use it for alerting and report writing. But I highly recommend that you have this bookmark somewhere and that you are using it and referencing it whenever either you're building a report or you're tracking cyber threat activity, or even if you're a red team, to try to use it as an educational or informational source to emulate, adversarial behavior whenever you're on your red team engagements. So that is the MITRE ATT&CK Framework. You absolutely should have it bookmarked on your machine somewhere, and you should be using it quite often. Again, it's a free to use resource. You can use it in your home lab. You can use it, anywhere. It's phenomenal. Something else that you should use as a resource is this video of the cyber kill chain, because it's a cool name and it's a cool concept. So definitely check it out. Also, be sure to like this video so we can spread to new audiences and more people can learn about MITRE ATT&CK, because hey, the more the merrier. And drop a comment on what your favorite sports team is. It better not be the Oakland Raiders or the Denver Broncos. With all that, I will see you all next time. Bye.